based off the title and that little intro alone, you would have really thought that I fucking hated myself, but it's not that type of hate. Um, it's just the older I get, the more I'm disappointed in myself. I've let so much shit go and I've tolerated so much and I allowed so many people to be in my life that I shouldn't have. And it's like, damn, why couldn't I realize this sooner? Why couldn't I, cut a lot of people out of my life I should have sooner? Why couldn't I, you know, recognize and understand my worth sooner? Why couldn't I fucking cut off toxic family members and friends who didn't support me? Why couldn't I do this all earlier? You look back and it's frustrating and I'm disappointed in myself. Um, this is not like a self-hate type of video because I absolutely love my life, but there's times when I look back and I'm just like, man, I hate that I allowed myself to be used or, be, the be a part of someone else's life without living my life. I just allowed so much shit and I would be so much further in life if I didn't allow it, if I loved myself early, if I, let go of bad habits, if I cut off people who just wasn't for me, if I, had better self-control, better fucking, more in control of my mental health, if only, and this is all part of growing. I'm doing a self-inventory and I'm looking back and I'm just, sometimes you have to go back. And this is how I deal with things. Sometimes you have to go back, find out what the root problem is of whatever's going on. And it's grimy, it's dirty. No one wants to do it because you got to go through all these emotions and all this pain, all this trauma that led you there. You don't want to relive a lot of that shit. But I remember, going around life just being so angry at everyone in the world. And I didn't know what it was from. And one night I just sat in the dark and I went back to when I was young and why I felt so angry today. And it was because I didn't get that love, or I felt abandoned, or I felt, you know, I felt, like I was just hated by everyone, including my family. And so I didn't have any love in my heart. I didn't have any, there was no perspective that I could see from love. Everything was just from survival and everything was just from hate. But I had to go back and I had to, sit with that uncomfortability of me, feeling lonely and sad and abandoned. And the older we get, the more we try to act tough and move on and pretend like that shit didn't happen. But it happened. And we could get older all we want, but that pain, that trauma is still there. And that's another reason I fucking, you know, was just so disappointed and I hated myself, was because, and again, hate is a strong word and words have meaning. But, I hate the shit that I allowed. I hate the shit that I let go. And it's like, damn, if only I knew a little sooner. And that's all part of life. It's all part of growing. It's all part of getting better, and I've outgrown a lot of family members, a lot of friends, because I started to love myself. I started to find my worth. I started to figure out what was making me scared. I figured out what my insecurities were. Figured out, what my purpose, what made me happy. And for the longest time, I was just living in trauma and fear and what someone else wanted me to be, what someone else wanted me to live. And so I had to let go of a lot of people once I did start to find myself. But the older I got, the more I realized how much I just tolerated, how much bullshit I simply tolerated. You know, things I once called understanding, or maybe it was me being patient, or maybe it was me being forgiving. You know, I now recognize those things were just me accepting behavior that I didn't deserve. I didn't deserve that behavior, but I allowed it because I didn't know any fucking better. I thought that that's what you had to do. I thought that that's how you kept people in your life. And then as I got older, I walked around with these same thoughts, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Why can't I keep anyone in my life? It's because, you know, I was allowing people and accepting people and behaviors that I didn't deserve. I kept, you know, making excuses for people because I wanted to see the best in them. Even when their behaviors and their actions were showing me exactly who they were. And I'm so mad and I'm so disappointed in myself that people would show me who they were and I will continue to ignore the red flags. I'm so disappointed in myself, you know, and I get it. A lot of this time, a lot of this shit that I gave away, I can't give back. I can't get it back. But that's what makes it so fucking frustrating. The time that I gave away, the energy that I gave away, the attention that I gave people, I can't get that shit back. And time is one of the most valuable things that we have. And if only I gave that time to me, maybe I would be so much further. Maybe I would have found my purpose, my calling so much sooner. You know, you start realizing that time, again, is one of the most valuable things that we have. And looking back, it could hurt to realize that we put so much of our time and it went toward people, it went toward relationships, it went toward situations that gave us very little back. I know it did for me. And that's what make it so fucking disappointing. I held on to people. I stayed in relationships longer than I should have because I wanted to be a good person. I wanted to be loyal. I wanted to, you know, see the good in everyone. But if only I had that time and I gave it to myself. I got nothing back in return whenever I stayed in these toxic relationships. Whenever I gave a job too much time, I gave a relationship too much time. I stayed in a family too much time. I got nothing back. And looking back, it's like, fuck, I hate myself for doing that. You know, not because, you know, I needed something in return, but because eventually I realized that I should be investing more of that energy into myself. What the hell am I doing? Investing energy into people who truly don't want to see me win. They're there to hurt me. They pray for your downfall. And they show you this, by the way. But because I'm a good person, we ignore it. Or because it's family, or because it's our so-called best friend, we ignore it. Looking back, it's one of the most frustrating things. It's like, fuck, I'm disappointed in myself. I didn't value myself the way that I should have. Now I value myself. But looking back, I didn't value myself. At least I didn't value myself as much as I should have. I put a lot of my value into people who didn't deserve it. And that's, you know, this is probably one of the deepest realizations. It's like, it sucks because it's like, it's not necessarily that other people didn't value you. It's that you sometimes accepted their lack of consideration because you wasn't considering yourself enough. That's disappointing. It's like, I put so much consideration into other people, but they never consider me. You know, you let people cross boundaries because you hadn't fully, you know, learned that having boundaries was an act of self-respect. And unfortunately, self-respect is something that a lot of people learn way too late in life. Um, you know, if only I respected myself sooner, it's disappointing to know that I, you know, put so much respect and love and energy into other people, but I didn't put it into myself. How many of y'all know what I'm talking about? It's like you get older, you grow older, and you realize like, damn, I wasted so much time. And then time just, it goes quick. You know, you look up, 20 years went by, 30 years went by, you were around the same people. You didn't move any, you didn't, you know, it's like, fuck. And it be our fault. We sit here and we try to blame other people, but it really be our fault because we didn't respect ourselves enough to cut people off, to set boundaries, and to get serious about shit. And you know, getting older, like me, it's like you get older and you start grieving a version of yourself who didn't know any better. I'm not gonna beat myself up. I didn't know any better. I get it. I understand. You know, I'm not gonna go too hard on myself, but it's like, damn, if only I knew what I knew now. And the reason I made this video is because a lot of people get older. Like I know people in my family and at the workplace where it's just like they're 20, 30 years older than me and they never, you know, they never got to a point to where they look back and said, shit, holy fuck, I wasted so much time. I'm disappointed in myself. They're like content. They're happy as if they didn't make any bad choices, as if they shouldn't be further. You know, it's like, damn. And I get it. I didn't know any better, but there's a particular kind of sadness in looking back and just thinking, why did I let that happen? You know, why did I stay? Why didn't I let this person go? Why did I keep giving? Why didn't I walk away sooner? I mean, why did I tolerate so much? It's like, why? And it's all our fault. We did it. You know, the goal isn't to hate the younger version of yourself. It's to understand you were doing the best you could with what you had. And unfortunately, a lot of people make bad decisions because they're not in the right environment. And that's just the truth. A lot of people make bad decisions because they're around family who's not good for them. Their family or friends are holding them back. They at a job that they work at and they're not valuing you. And it's just like, yo, a lot of times you just have to get away. A lot of times you just have to get away. The sooner, the better. It might be lonely. It might be, you know, but at the end of the day, it's like you don't want to get to a point to where you're 40, 50 years old looking back. And if you do, that's good. It's not a bad thing. But unfortunately, a lot of people get to their deathbed and they don't get to this point to where they're disappointed in the choices that they made, in the choices that they maybe should have made to get better results or get further in life. I'm 34 and I'm so grateful to sit here and be like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know, what was I thinking? Um, you know, I confused being needed at the time with being valued. And that's why I was so quick to give away my time, my energy, my just everything. You know, there were people who, you know, would come to me because I was dependable or maybe because I was forgiving or available. I was available all the fucking time because I didn't have anything going on in my life. So I would give my time and energy to everyone else. And I was willing to carry things that other people wasn't willing to carry. And so people were using me, but I wasn't using myself. For a long time, I thought that, you know, I actually mattered to these people, and I didn't matter. They were using me for what they could use me for. And getting older taught me that, you know, being useful to someone isn't the same as being genuinely valued, respected, or appreciated by them. You know, when you're valued, when you're appreciated, when you're wanted by someone, that's a different type of feeling. It's a different type of feeling. Um, and I look back and I just realized, like, holy fuck, I got duped. I was really a goofy. And it's frustrating because I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. That's why it's so frustrating. If I was a goofball, if I was like one of these dumb motherfuckers, I'd be like, oh, whatever. But nah, I'm not like, I'm I notice everything. But, you know, I know what I know now. And it's hard because You know, one of the hardest parts of growing is you look back with today's wisdom and you judge yesterday's decision. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. You know, I've grown so much, I've learned a lot. But when I look back and I look at the decisions that I made, it's like, what the fuck was I thinking? And it's disappointing. It's discouraging. I'm happy with where I'm at now, but damn, if only I got on this shit sooner and I got on my grind sooner and I cut people out sooner. I got serious sooner. Where would I be? You know, we're all so caught up in time and feeling like we don't have any time. Sometimes I get caught up in that shit. And time is not real, by the way. But sometimes I get caught up in this whole, but maybe if I started earlier, I would have been so much further. And that's kind of where I beat myself up there. You think I would never accept that now. You would never accept that. And that's what makes a lot of us angry. The shit that I did, the shit that I tolerated, I would never in my life accept it today. And that's if you got to the part of growing and if you've had set some type of boundaries. And that's not because you were, you know, it's at the time when you were letting this shit go, it's not because you were stupid. It's not because you didn't know any better, but it's because you finally, you know, recognize your own worth now. You get to a point to where you recognize your own worth and you can't help but look back and realize all the dumb shit that you did. Now, I'm not sitting here beating myself up. I do want to know, have anyone gone through this realization of just realizing like, damn, what the fuck was I thinking? The challenge is learning to give yourself the same grace that you used to give everyone else whenever you was giving your time away to everyone else. You was quick to give grace to someone whenever they stood you up, whenever they needed you, whenever, I know I did, but that's because I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't know my self-worth. I didn't respect myself. And it's like, holy fuck, Chris, what were you doing? So again, this is not a self-hate video, but damn, I hate the decisions that I made when I was younger because it made everything just harder. You know, I feel like shit should have been so much easier for me. But I had to go back, rewire this, reroute, go back, go again. It's like, fuck. And I'm still, you know, getting better and still trying to get through some of this shit. It's a mental thing as well. But if only, you know, I knew this shit sooner. If only I got serious sooner. If only I fucking, one of the biggest things is literally cutting people off who shouldn't be in your life. If only I got to the point of doing that sooner, I would have got to this point sooner, to where I got to hear my own thoughts and really know what the fuck I needed to do. But sadly, a lot of people never get to this point because they're surrounded by everyone else and they never get that time to themselves to know and think and strategize what the fuck to do. They don't have a game plan. And so they stay around people who don't support them. They stay around people who sabotage them and dismiss them and manipulate them and gaslight them and toxic with their drama related everything because they don't know any better. And a lot of people are 40, 50, 60 years old, just ignorant about this shit. They don't know any better. They don't know any better. They don't love themselves. So they give all their time and energy and love to other people. And they just get used. And you know, everything is just on display today. It's one of the saddest things to see. But I was headed down that road. I was headed down that road of just not knowing who the fuck I was and trying to attach myself to someone else to feel worthy. And that's what a lot of people are doing. But, you know, let me know in the comments. Have y'all ever felt this way? And again, if you have, that's great. Get that shit out the way. I love my fucking life and I love where I am. But I hate the decisions that I made. I hate the shit that I tolerated. I hate the shit that I used to, you know, try to normalize as like this was cool or this is okay. No, it wasn't okay. None of that shit was okay. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. Send this video to someone who could truly, truly use it. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And I love y'all. Deuces.